Barcelona. So we had a fair few experiences to call upon when we sat down to write this. However, it was something that Mrs. Amos, Ben's mum, said to me that always stuck in my mind. Apparently, when Tim was at school, all the mums had a nickname for him. Angel Boy. You can just imagine it now, with his butter wouldn't melt face, protesting his innocence at the slightest bit of trouble. Inevitably, Ben sat on table 2 over there, and Paddy and Ali on table 12 would be left to take the flak, whilst Tim would stand there telling Mrs. Amos how lovely her garden looked. As Ben said to me, Tim was squeaky clean at school. We did manage to find one bit of dirt, a bit that every one of Tim's schoolmates clearly remembered still today. He once said he would have sex with a monkey. Now, I'm not sure in what context he said that, but I guess you can ask him about it later.
Perhaps he was an angel. After all, he did make headway at school. But maybe that was because everybody was afraid of him. Why, you might ask, would anyone be afraid of Tim? Well, would you believe it, that this man that stands before us today was once the 7th strongest boy in Britain? Excelled at powerlifting. Tim, can you stand up and show everyone you still got those muscles? Unfortunately, as much as we tried, we couldn't track down a photo from those early powerlifting days. But if everyone opens envelope 1 on the table in front of you, you'll find that we managed to track down a more recent one of the body that perfected the clean and jerk technique. What an athlete!
You can see why Laura's attracted to him.
It's the trainers and socks, Tim.
I don't know about you,
Back to back to
over the last 10 years, I haven't seen much of this angel boy.
I know exactly what you mean. Surely a man banned from the Orkney Islands is no angel.
Or a man who does runners from curry houses in Oxford.
And certainly not a man who steals plant pots and signs from the Royal Armouries in Leeds.
And most definitely not a man who wears... not a man who enjoys wearing his fiance's underwear. You know it's true, Tim.
He's probably wearing them now.
To be honest, Sonny, I've even seen a slightly sinister side to Tim.
Sinister? What on earth do you mean by that?
Well, you know, there was the...
Terry, are you talking about the map? I thought we burnt that in case anything happened to it.
No.
Well, that was the idea. But I thought I'd keep it for this very occasion. Tim? I think you know what this is. Shall I explain?
No, Terry, let me explain.
Oh, no way, man.
During our university days, before Tim was fortunate enough to meet Laura, there was a girl on campus that caught his eye. Unfortunately for Tim at the time, she failed to acknowledge his mere existence. Undeterred by this, and unable to transfer to her course, Tim decided to plot on a map times and places to run into her around the university in the hope that he might catch her eye. Tim clearly did realise back then that the best things can be found in a jazz club in Islington when you're not looking for them.
A little known fact, well, it was a little known until the Reverend said it earlier and then Tim repeated it, you know. It was that this wedding could have been a few years earlier, had the happy couple got together the first time they met. Tim and Laura first crossed paths on the eve of the new millennium up in Leeds. I'd now like you to open envelope 2 on the table in front of you, so you can see what Tim was wearing that night. You really can't blame Laura for thinking he was already spoken. Adam, can we stand up?
Adam, stand up.
Tim, stand up.
Adam! Adam!
Didn't work out.
What's Adam doing with his tongue?
Jokes aside, Tim, both Terry and I are really honoured that you asked us to be your best men today. As we said earlier, we've shared many memorable moments with Tim. I think everyone here will agree that you struggle to find a nicer person than Tim, a true gent who never has a bad word to say about anyone. He deserves all the success he is having in his professional life, but moreover, he deserves all the happiness he has with Laura. Tim, we're both delighted that you met Laura, someone who is blessed with the same qualities as yourself, and someone who we consider to be one of our best friends.
I don't think there's any doubt that Tim and Laura are the perfect match. If ever any more evidence was needed, you can look at the point that both Tim and Laura have an uncanny ability to fall asleep in almost any situation. Admittedly, usually alcohol-induced. Given some of the trouble that Tim's got himself before through his drinking, I've no doubt that this has probably saved him from having a few more, let's say, incidents. But there's one particular incident that stands out in my mind. On a random night out in Maidenhead, in search of some after-hour drinks, we stumbled across the only place that was still open, which just so happened to be, what can I say, the local gentleman's club. Tim was already legless, so not long after entering, he managed to stumble and fall over and hit his head on a radiator. The sight of the bloody Tim being carried out with a stripper either side supporting him, that's one that will live long in the memory. To make matters worse, there's no taxi would take him home. We had to phone Ben Petrucci's mum to come and pick him up. I don't think Mrs. Petrucci thought he wore a halo that night.
Tim's alcohol-induced narcolepsy has actually landed him in a spot of bother. On a big works night out, Tim woke up in complete darkness. Not knowing where he was or how he got there, he was concerned that his pants and trousers were round his ankles. Unable to see anything, he started to fumble for a light switch, but couldn't find one in the cubicle. Still unaware that he was in the nightclub toilets, he decided to crawl out. His hands and knees slipping and sliding in the unimaginable. He finally made it to the toilet door. On re-entering the nightclub, the silence was broken by